History teaches us courage and selfless acts of heroes like that of Jose Rizal or General Gregorio del Pilar. The stories about their fight against superior foreign enemies come across as a rallying cry for people to identify a common nation and love of country. But there are stories too in the regions and localities that should be part of the whole history of the Philippines. In recent years, a surge in research and writing of local histories reintroduced us to local heroes like Leon Kilat, General Arcadio Maxilom, and others. To many local people though, they're just names of streets.
Kaila ba kang Leon Kilat na
Wala. Didya?
Leon Kilat.
Okay la.
Ang gitawag niya din San God Leon Kilat. Pero ako kitag tao, kakinsa ng tao nga Leon Kilat.
Pamgras, the Cebu Heritage Hotel, wants to connect the locals with their past. We produced music videos, published books in local history, and put the names of local heroes literally on the dining table. In 2018, we assembled a group of kids and tasked them to write a book about Leon Kilat for children.
I first heard about Leon Kilat when I was looking for something to read at my house.
My Araling Palipunan teacher was lecturing about the famous people in Cebu, and Leon Kilat was one of our topics.
I mostly knew Leon Kilat by name. History-wise, I didn't know much about Leon Kilat.
Leon Kilat or Pantaleon Villegas was a Katipunan general who led the Cebuanos' fight against Spain in what we now know as the 1898 Battle of Tres de Abril. In the book that we published, history writer Emil Hostimbasti wrote that the battle was the crucial spark that turned the tide against the forces of Spain in Cebu.
It was a big victory for the locals because for the first time in history, hindagan ng mga Katsila.
Like many, Santi Sagaino did not know the story about Leon Kilat or other local historical figures for that matter.
Sa nagsebaran ko, parang hindi to masyadong tinuturo ng mga guro kasi sa textbook kasi nila, para bang hindi to nakafocus.
Local history was not taught as a core subject in schools, even before the Philippines implemented the K-12 basic education curriculum in 2016.
Right now, murag na may mga attempts no to focus on local history no nanay. Although medyo lacking siya gamay, so this book can fill in that gap, no.
With the help of our friends, established in the fields of heritage advocacy, design, art direction, and storytelling, we mentored the kids to help them create a children's story based on the heroism of Leon Kilat.
He cared not only for himself, but because he cared for people in the country, and he loved the country so much, and then he was not scared to fight for the country.
This is a unique case no, of children being told history and then them retelling it. No?
Mas ligon ang foundation sa bata kung siya mismo involved siya sa pagpanday sa narrative, sa istorya.
When I asked the students what is the most interesting, like magical feature of the story of Leon Kilat, and they pointed out the Sigbin, how Leon Kilat has a Sigbin who helped him.
I wanted to add a touch of the supernatural in the story so that little kids would also hear about it.
This particular genre called speculative fiction that includes fantasy, maybe some elements of horror and sci-fi. They really like this kind of genre in the works that they read.
the humans are happy fishing when the aliens, the Spaniards, come together.
The artist has to think like a child. But in this case, unique ni siya kay it's the children themselves doing that. Of course, sa nga nga level ang children think to murag wild kay lang imagination ba no. And so that shows sa ilang version sa Leon Kilat story no. So it's a bit wild na sci-fi elements no.
So we were thinking of like sci-fi themes, like Iron Man, Avengers, since that's Avengers inspired one of the writers.
I learned a lot from this experience, mostly about history and my art direction. I have so many people around me to help with this project, and I'm happy to help bring this project to life.
Other kids should read this story because it's very important for us, especially as Cebuanos, to know about our past and how we got our freedom that we now have today.
Whatever effort there is to make students read, entice them with a new kind of story, sci-fi infused story based on a historical figure, can actually make them start reading and maybe like, when they start reading this, like what else is there that we can read, and so the demand will start there, and hopefully writers will catch up with the demand.
I think the children will enjoy reading it, and I think they will grow to love Leon Kilat.
Leon Kilat is like a good example to young kids.
Kailangan di ay nga kita tanan kay magtinabangay ta para ato yung mabuhat na to kung usa tong ganahan.
I admire Leon Kilat for leading the Cebuanos in fighting for our independence.
I'm really happy that I got to work with professionals because I just did art as a hobby.
Mas dali ang transmission sa information kung magtanaw kag pictures.
I think ang ultimate nga importance sa history is the sense of narrative, no? The sense of wonder.
There are a limited number of writers who focus on, let's say, children's stories or children's books or even YA.